Thanks for inviting me to speak about the invitation to change as an approach to helping. The invitation to change approach, or ITC, is a motivational and behavioral model for facilitating change, or to put it another way, is a set of evidence-based ideas and tools that allow helpers to more effectively help. And those helpers could be parents, family members, mental health professionals, or anyone working with people struggling with substance use issues. And as a process approach, we also consider the ITC to be useful in encouraging change more generally outside of the substance use arena. The approach draws on major elements of craft, motivational interviewing, and acceptance and commitment therapy, as well as the self-compassion work of Neff and Germer. The use of the word invitation is quite intentional and conveys the underlying importance in this approach of collaboration, autonomy support, and motivation in facilitating change. The ITC has a big heart. We sometimes describe this as a blend of science and kindness, and it makes room for the grief, anguish, joy, and hope that families experience on this journey. ITC concepts are explained in very straightforward, plain English terms, making use of metaphor and experiential practice to establish a common sense understanding of the concepts. The ideas are also represented visually in a circle, which I'm showing you here, reinforcing the idea that while the concepts and practices can each be learned and used independently, they also inform, enrich, and strengthen each other when used holistically. And the helping model includes three main areas: helping with understanding, helping with awareness, and helping with action. So the underlying concepts of the understanding section are foundational to the ITC. The ideas in this section are aimed at establishing a new framing or set of lenses for viewing substance use behaviors in motivational or behavioral reinforcement terms, again, in plain language. Helpers can start to see behaviors, even frightening or uncomfortable ones, related to substance use, as a product of their reinforcement value to the person performing them. The key concept here is expressed in the simple statement, behaviors make sense. That is, substance use behaviors are serving a function for that person that at their core make sense and are understandable. This framing, while straightforward, typically provides a huge perspective shift that cuts across the very black and white stigmatizing cultural messaging used in describing substance use. The behaviors make sense framing increases empathy and compassion, as well as providing the beginnings of a behavioral roadmap for change. That is, what competing, more constructive behaviors could serve a similar function and also be reinforcing. Last, this framing provides an important context for understanding ambivalence as a battle of competing reinforcers, which is incredibly important for establishing greater acceptance, patience, and compassion for the uneven and jagged change process that can be so brutal for helpers. The second section of the ITC is helping with awareness, which includes a number of self-awareness processes for the helper to develop. The central ideas here are, first, allowing for awareness of self, emotions, thoughts, bodily sensations, action tendencies, as a path to grounding oneself as a helper through difficulties and struggles. An additional self-awareness invitation here is to become reacquainted with one's values as a helper and as a person more broadly. A framing question here is, how do I want to show up in these roles that I am in? Next, in the awareness section is the idea of willingness, which essentially asks helpers to form a new relationship with discomfort and emotional pain. That is, to come to understand that this role includes pain, as in disappointment, anger, sadness, helplessness, etc. And that pain does not have to be a signal to disconnect or other reactions to get the pain to go away, but can instead be a path that includes pain as a companion to be expected in the pursuit of deeply important actions. The last part of awareness is self-compassion, mostly as understood by Neff and Germer, in allowing a sense of the common humanity of this struggle as opposed to isolation, the importance of a present moment focus in the context of struggle, as opposed to ruminating on past actions or worrying about negative futures, and the cultivation of kindness toward oneself as a helper, All of these stances are typically sorely lacking, especially for family members in our helping role, who again have to navigate cultural and social stigma and isolation for even being in this struggle. And the last section of the ITC is helping with action, which offers straightforward communication strategies, such as the OARS skills from motivational interviewing, as well as positive reinforcement and behavior decreasing strategies. I'm not going to discuss these tools here other than to note that the effectiveness of these more behavioral strategies is enhanced when used in the context of the first two ITC sections of understanding and awareness. That is, having a greater empathic understanding of the person who is struggling, as well as greater self-awareness of one's values and reactions as a helper, allow for much more effective use of behavioral tools. Also embedded in the model, which happens to be in the center of the circle, is that idea that all new actions, including learning to be a helper, take time and practice. And that's an idea that promotes both a willingness to acquire the skills of helping, as well as self-compassion in this learning process. Last, the ITC is an approach designed to be accessible and usable by lay people, family members, friends, community advocates, as well as by professionals, as two of the biggest barriers to providing real help to those struggling with substance abuse are the lack of professionals available to help in the struggle and the lack of attention to the role families could play in promoting change. Families as a group suffer terribly, and they remain endlessly motivated. And by not including them in the helping process, we're missing a powerful opportunity for changing the trajectory of substance use struggles for many, many people, as well as the opportunity to move away from our largely stigmatizing and shaming cultural conversation about these issues. Thanks so much for having me here today.